Nobody asked me how I was doing, but I had a great...
Oh, how was your 4th?
Yeah.
How was your 4th, SJ?
It was great, guys. I was out on Cape Cod. Look at how tan I am. Doesn't this? My teeth look extra white.
Wait, pull up your shirt. The tan line. Ross, do you know about this tan line?
Still working on the tan line.
It's like a literal line.
In general.
It is so tough.
Like a single...
I've never seen a tan line like that before.
I went biking, and I forgot that I was biking during the summer, and it was warm, and I just had the jersey on, and then my arms got completely cooked, and the rest of me did not, and I've been spending the rest of the summer trying to blend the line. It's really hard. Once you get that line, do you remember?
It does look like a single line.
It's bad. Yeah. It's not as bad as it was, but I don't think that line's ever going away.
You should get one of those barbed wire tattoos. Remember those? The 90s?
And then it'll just like blend together. Yeah.
That would look so badass on you.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Yeah. I could totally carry that. No.
You could pull it off. Bring it back, actually. It was a fad.
I could get that on one arm to cover the line. And then on the other one, I could get like a tribal Asian script that I don't understand and just have those two. I'd be so douchey. Douchebag coded.
Douchebag coded. Or just douchebag in general. Yeah.
No coding necessary.
Yeah, no coding necessary.
No,
Ross, do you have any tattoos?
No. My body's a temple.
What do you think about that, Max?
What my body's a temple.
Your body's been graffitied.
My body's been graffitied.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Ross is like, your body is not a temple.
If you were gonna get a tattoo, what would you get?
Kate's face on my right pec. No, that just came to me. No, I don't know.
That'd be good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you could always remember.
No, I appreciate people who are tattooed. That's just always been my answer whenever anyone's ever asked me. I don't know why. People always laugh at it, so I just keep saying it. But I don't really mean it, you know? It's just one of those things.
Your body is a temple.
You like found the joke and you're like, I'm never
let go. Yeah, my body's a temple. I just drank for 2 weeks straight.
Welcome to Machete Order, a podcast about the best TV shows of all time, or at least some of them. I'm S.J. Petteruti.
I'm Maxine Philivong. Each season, we're joined by a special guest host.
2 of us will have seen the show before.
And 1 hasn't.
This season, we're talking about The Sopranos.
Now, statistics shows that most single car fatalities are the result of guys popping their load behind the wheel.
Welcome back, folks. Hope everybody had a great 4th of July weekend. We took a week off. We needed it. This is session 9 of Machete Order Sopranos, and it's hard to string together like 10 consecutive weeks of recording with 3 different people.
Exhausting.
I feel out of it.
Do you feel refreshed, though? Are you ready to get back into it?
I don't know.
You have your notes.
I have my notes. I always have notes.
Ross, do you have your notes?
Yes, but no written summary.
Yeah, I don't have a written
summary.
Me too.
You have no written summary either?
Yeah.
Should I just raw dog it too? No written summary for me? All right, fine. Well, no written summaries. Let's see how this goes.
Me and Ross have unionized against written summaries.
We have. It's a united front against you.
Yeah.
Right.
Speaking of raw dog, have you seen the raw dog flight stuff?
Yeah. What's up with that? How did that suddenly become a thing? This feels like the Gentle Minions thing. All right, let's go to our Gen Z expert.
Hold on.
Maxine?
Raw dogging?
Yeah.
Just like the term in general?
No, not the term in general, but this new thing about guys going on planes and not listening to music, watching TV.
Yeah, you're raw dogging the plane.
Raw dog the flight.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Could you do it?
Could I do it? Just like raw dogging a flight? No.
Why would you want to?
If I don't have like constant music in my ear, like in general, I'm going insane.
How did this even become a thing? Like, did people just get together and was like, oh, it's awesome to watch somebody just stare straight ahead? It's trying to be social media famous, isn't it?
Maybe. Wait, what do
There's an old Curb episode where Jeff Garland does it.
Really?
I think somebody stumbled across that. Yeah.
Well, the original is David Puddy and the flight episode with him and Elaine on the flight, and they break up like 3 times.
There you go. Seinfeld and Curb, same writers. There you go.
Was there an homage in Curb to the Seinfeld episode, or did they just kind of remake it?
No, they redid it with Jeff.
Yeah, see, this is my problem with remakes. All right, wait, let's not get off topic. Let's get back to raw dogging. How did this become a thing? I really don't understand.
Raw dogging?
Yes.
We all know the professional definition or the original definition of raw dogging, correct?
Yeah, we're familiar.
Yeah.
Professional?
This is a family professional. This is a family
I'm going to go with
podcast.
OG, but yeah, professional. We'll take professional. Raw
I couldn't think of the word for the
All
professional definition. But Never mind. Actually, I have to go back and I got thrown off track. It's because we took 2 weeks off of podcasting,
Yeah,
and now
you're
I forgot how to talk.
Did also
or explain.
Did somebody fix or break the air conditioner? Because
it's so hot in here.
It's hot in here. Yeah.
It's like 95 degrees in
I'm
Boston right
schwitzing.
now.
I apologize to the camera.
Oh man,
It's not good.
a little cold over here. This ceiling fan's just cranking. It's freezing.
Jealous. Yeah, it is. It is warm in here. This
This
could get
that's why
loopy.
I was keeping the door open when you walked in, because I was in here earlier with my coworker, and he walked in and he was like, "It smells like piss in here."
Oh,
What
that's
happened?
great. All the wires are messed up. It smells. It's hot.
We're falling apart at the end of Machete, this season of Machete
Kind of
Order.
stumbling around the turn to come home and down the stretch.
Okay.
Let's raw dog this episode though, all the way through. The
No
summaries.
notes.
What else?
Yeah,
No
no notes.
notes.
I'm getting rid of my notes.
No notes.
No notes.
All right. I don't know if I can do that.
No, I'm not gonna give it my notes, but
This is
no-
the wrong episode to not do notes though, because we've
Yeah,
been on
a lot
a delay
happened.
here. All right, well, we'll raw dog the next one.
Let's
Yeah.
raw dog the finale. How about that? All right.
Okay.
Just raw dog
sounds
the
great.
finale. There's no more episodes to look forward to. We'll be
Yeah.
at the end. We're also just, we're going to have a few guest hosts come on and give their take. We've had a couple of people who actually have been following us. We have a few actual fans.
We have fans, believe it or not.
Yeah. Thank you, fans. Thank you for listening.
We won't name you, but there are several.
You know
too
who you
many,
are.
Too many to count, some would say.
There are dozens of them.
least.
Dozens. No, but seriously, we're going to have a few people on just to kind of weigh in on some of the episodes that they liked that we chose, some of the episodes that we left out. True Machete Order critique, and it's what we deserve. So
Yeah.
looking forward to that. That will be not next episode, but the episode after that, when we get through all 30 recommendations and we can finally look back on the body of work itself and have a conversation about how, Maxine, your experience of Sopranos compares maybe with Ross and mine and our originals and anybody else who've seen it all 1 through 86. So should be good stuff. But right now, let's get into the recommendations from session 8. We started, and this, all right, let's take a step back. Overall, what'd you think? The body of work collectively.
This was a very sad few episodes. We saw Adrianna's arc, which ended in tragedy. It did not end in a way that I thought it would end.
Okay, I'm looking forward to getting into that.
Yeah, which we'll get into. But it also ended with kind of looking back and looking at the life you could have had.
Yeah.
And wanting that life so bad, but not knowing how to get to it and kind of fantasizing. I think the entirety of Sopranos is kind of about that, right?
Yeah.
It's fantasizing about the life you could have had as opposed to the life you've been given.
Which kind of fits with all like the dream sequences
Yeah.
that they keep on popping in there of like alternate realities.
Yeah.
Multiverses, if you will.
Sopranos, the original multiverse.
I mean, mobster's one of the only professions you truly cannot get out of.
Yeah.
It is trapped in that sense, right?
Yeah, so can't get out of it as much as you might want to try. And that is part of what ultimately becomes Adrianna's undoing. Episode 5 of season 5. This was...
Wait, are you getting a summary? Who's giving
No,
summary?
I was just going to say, who do I kick it to here? All right, Ross.
Okay.
Irregular on the margins. Let's see if you can do better than last session's summary that you gave, which was excellent in its brevity.
Alrighty. So this episode was all about Tony and Adrianna and Chris and the dynamic between the three of them. Chris and Tony have long had simmering tensions, but Adrianna gets involved in this episode in a big way. So Tony finds himself at Adrianna's club frequently to the point that he's taken up some office space in the back. Tony and Adrianna are getting really friendly and close and find themselves in a compromising moment that almost leads them to crossing the line into something physical. That does not happen. However, the two of them find themselves in the office again and leads to the two of them looking for drugs at 2 a.m. and trying to avoid a raccoon and getting into a car accident. They both get hurt pretty badly in the accident, and immediately this moves into, how can we cover up the story and make it look like we were just going out to get food? So Chris, of course, finds out about this accident. Why was my fiance in the car with Tony at 2 a.m.? Gets really upset, starts drinking, goes to the Bing, shoots it up, looking for Tony, acting like a madman. And it leads to a moment where Tony and crew are bringing Chris out into a field where you think, this is the end for Chris. And they effectively have this come to Jesus moment together where, Tony forces him to admit that nothing happened. And they eventually move on. So that's really the synopsis. There's obviously a lot to unpack there.
And we'll get into it. We'll get into it.
And we'll get into it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Let's start with the game of telephone that happens after Tony and Adrianna go to the hospital. Because I think that's one of The Sopranos has such dark moments, and then there are these moments of humor that come in, and to me, when they were just going around and the way that the rumor just got worse and worse and worse, it was hysterical.
Tony walked away without a scratch, but Adrianna suffered a severe blow to the head.
Adrianna got caught giving a big guy a blowjob.
And when the paramedics found him, she had his cock still in her mouth.
Now, statistics shows that most single car fatalities are the result of guys popping their load behind the wheel.
Apparently, he came all over the sun visor.
San Severino. Guess who went down on Tony Soprano?
And yet this is setting up for like one of the biggest confrontations that we've seen so far.
It is so silly the way the rumor just like snowballs into Adrianna sucking Tony's dick, you know?
There's the line.
Yeah.
The statistics show that most single car fatalities are the results of guys popping their load behind the wheel.
It's a very,
First of all,
it had very Goodfellas vibes, the silliness there, which I
Calling
think
it-
is a nice balance to the,
That's what makes it great. Yeah, it's like the levity of all these different types of stories. Calling it popping your load is a great expression that really has gone out of style lately. All right, well, what about you, Max? What'd you think?
Yeah, this episode was, at the beginning, very silly. At the end, not so silly. Kind of just sad. You can kind of see Tony, having a soft spot for Chris, being his father figure throughout the series. And especially in this episode when he chooses to, he could kill Chris, but everyone wants Chris dead after, Tony specifically wants Chris dead after the rumor that's spread around, and what he did shooting up Tony's car.
Coming at the boss.
Yeah, coming at the boss.
Paulie has a problem with that.
Anyone else, they'd be dead.
Yeah.
But for Chris, he's fine. Or
This isn't the first time either that Tony has said that to Chris. If it were anybody else, we saw that in the last episode or in the last session where we were talking about when Chris goes to rehab.
Mm-hmm.
If it were anybody else, you wouldn't get the opportunity to go to rehab.
Yeah.
But here he is again now, giving him a second pass effectively for his erratic behavior.
Yeah. I really don't understand this pass.
Yeah. He treats Chris very differently than he treats the rest of the crew.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we see that time and again with when it came to pussy, had to go.
Mm-hmm.
And there's going to be other scenes that we see where Tony just says, no, doesn't matter how close you are to me. But with Chris, he has a soft spot for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, Chris not only shoots up the car, but he also comes in trying to fire inside the club, right? And he runs out of bullets. So
yeah,
I was really surprised Tony gave him a pass at the end, given that he effectively tried to murder him. Yeah.
Well, the confrontation in the cornfields, it doesn't feel like they're going to do it, and it's because of Tony B, Steve Buscemi's character.
Yeah.
That he kind of walks him off the plank, right?
Yeah.
I think it's like listen to somebody else, try something different for a change.
Yeah.
But that was a pretty intense moment.
Maxine, did you think he was getting whacked when they were driving down the cornfield?
Oh yeah, I did.
Yeah.
You draw down on the boss of a fucking family? Huh?
You lied to me! You were scoring coke with her. She admitted it.
So what? I can't relieve stress every once in a while. I don't got enough fucking problems.
You sent me to North Carolina so you could fuck my girlfriend.
What kind of fucking animal you think I am? The thought never even entered my head.
You're a man, you're alone in a car with her.
You fucking pushed me to this. You pushed me to this.
Do you think Tony was gonna kill him?
And then he listened to his cousin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he says it. You pushed me to this.
Yeah.
And he's immediately putting the blame on somebody else like he likes to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, just ultimate sign of disrespect to shoot up his car. I mean, you can't get much worse than that.
I thought it was interesting when he's talking to Melfi before all of this happens, and he's had that moment. They're playing darts, and there's definitely a lot of sexual tension, the way he helps her up. She's on her knees in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
And he has that conversation, again, like about the life that you could have had. He could have a whole new life, and he thinks about that. I don't know. It just feels like, really? Do you think that she'd go for you, that this is the actual way that this could go?
Well, Adrianna said she was attracted to Tony, too.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the feds laugh at her for it. Yeah. So,
He really listens.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was so funny. That one FBI agent woman is vicious.
Yeah. Yeah.
Making fun of Adriana.
She does not care about her at all.
What did Tony say to Chris? All right, she's a knockout, a 10. And look at you. You're average at best. Oh,
Oof.
he called average?
Yeah.
That's my worst nightmare. Average, boring, not
Yeah.
interesting.
You want to be handsome and unique. Well, you're the good-looking one on the podcast, Ross, so don't worry.
Oh, come on.
According to the fans of the
Yeah.
pod, to friends of the pod, you are the hottest one here, Ross.
Yeah, congratulations, Ross.
Ross is blushing. Look at him. Look at him putting his hand through his hair. He's like,
yeah, those full locks.
Full blocks.
I thought Melfi, it was weird. Melfi's commending him for just like reaching the milestone of resisting his temptations
know.
and his urges. You know, talk about low bars.
yeah.
Right.
Is she a good therapist? What do we feel about this?
I think Melfi is doing the best with what's in front of her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what would you commend Tony Soprano for? There's not much. And I think a therapy tactic would be celebrating the little victories, right? And what little victories does Tony Soprano have?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, there is.
Yeah.
This is, I suppose, a victory, but I mean, this is like maybe the only victory that we see, because everything else, I can't think of another example. Fans out there who are listening, I want to hear back. I can't think of another example where Tony exercised a discretion he wouldn't otherwise already do had it not been for therapy.
Yeah.
It seems like she's just the sounding board, and Melfi's character is basically just the audience's ear listening to Tony's monologue. They get rid of the narrative and they replace it with this character Melfi. She has a couple of scenes that are outside of the arc of the therapist room, but overall, I think she's pretty much a useless therapist. I mean, she doesn't help him. She doesn't challenge him into anything that really hits home throughout all 6 seasons of this.
Yeah, I think the ultimate question too is whether she should be treating him at all, right? Versus even what she's saying in the sessions.
Well, it brings up the idea of like whether or not, you know, characters and people can change, and if there is hope for salvation. Nobody really changes on their own.
Well, no one changes unless they want to change. And I think Tony is just there to have a sounding board, and he's never going to actually want to change because he's a textbook sociopath, right? And he doesn't actually think anything's wrong with him other than like
He's
having these panic attacks
Yeah.
and like, how do I stop the panic attacks? But to stop the panic attacks, you have to like change your mindset and change your personality and change the things that you're doing. And he doesn't want to change any of that.
Yeah, he's far beyond thinking that the life he's chosen is an immoral life.
Yeah. Mhm.
It's the life he's chosen to take care of his family, and that's all that matters to him, which I guess goes back to why he's protective over Chris.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I mean, yeah, Melfi gets him to stop having the panic attacks. We see those less and less. She medicates him, and that's one way of stopping a symptom, but there really isn't a lot of progress that's being made in his character.
Yeah.
I wonder, we talked a lot about in the last couple of episodes, how would you film this now? I wonder if this show was being shot in 2024, if there would be a better attempt for the mental health care that Tony's trying to go through to actually make some sort of progress, or to see some sort of tactics that she's trying to employ be attempted and then maybe work, maybe not work, but actually deal with the repercussions of that.
Yeah. I think it would. Ross, what do you think? Would it be filmed differently?
Would it be filmed differently? I don't know. Well, and what, I guess, side note, what you said earlier, I think Tony does know that he's a bad person, that he does bad things. I think he just, to your point, SJ, I think this is the life I've chosen. I know I do shitty stuff and I'm not going to change. Like, I think it's all of the above, effectively.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I view it.
Yeah. People contain multitudes, you know?
Yeah, multitudes.
And,
yeah.
you know, I agree with you. I think he probably knows, like, he's a bad person. He's doing bad things. But, like, what are his other options? He can't change it.
What makes you think that? I don't really think of him having regret or remorse over any of the people that he has to kill. He certainly has no remorse over the things that he steals or the way that they cheat the systems to gain edges. You know, he has no sympathy or leniency to people who owe him money. You know, we saw that in Bust Out, right? He had just like, this is how it works. Like, I make my bread and butter by bankrupting people like you.
It's my general perception of him in the therapy sessions and the show at large is that he, to your point, he knows that this is part of the job. It's like roles and responsibilities. If you were to read the JD of being a mafia boss, this is what's in it.
Yeah.
And he knows that at the end of the day, it's not right and immoral and unethical. Just the way, that's just my perception of it.
All right. Well,
can we talk about the scene with Vito? So it always feels like they're talking about either Adrianna, Ginny Sack, and then the guy just walks in. It's like the timing's impeccable at the thing, talking about people significant others.
Yeah.
This is what killed me though. The reason I brought this up, Chris throws a sandwich at Vito.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Would you ever throw a sandwich at someone?
A whole
No, that's a waste.
No, you just bought it, right?
Not.
You just bought it, you just made it. Oh my
Good
God.
sandwich too.
That paid me to watch that. Yeah.
Vito gets pissed. He's like, I'm a captain now.
And there's a theme in the episode too, where Tony goes back to the house and he almost leaves the pizza there when he's getting kicked out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
But he grabbed it though. Thank God. I was about to lose it.
Too much wasted food in this episode. Yeah. I thought Carmela baiting him about trying to admit what was happening and then him finally like convincing her nothing actually happened. Yeah. It's the one time that Tony's telling the truth and she will not believe him.
Yeah.
No one believes Tony in this episode, even though it's like, sorry, Ross.
I was saying, and then Carmela miraculously agrees to go to the dinner at the end. It's like, oh my God, how did he get her?
Well,
to do
she
that?
knows, the appearances and all of this, this is like you were saying, this is the job. This is the thing that we have to, this is the thing that we have to do. And then like the way that Tony in the therapist office, after this whole thing blows up and he just is like, yeah, I should have banged her. It would have been easier.
I'm basically going through all of the shit anyways. I might as well have just done it, right?
As if he had done it. Yeah.
Yeah. This is the one time that Tony didn't do something and he's getting so much shit for it. And no one will believe him.
At least he has the awareness to say that, he might as well have done it because of all the shit that he had to go through about it all. Moral of the story, kids, don't go get Coke after midnight.
You can get before midnight.
Nothing good happens after midnight. I remember I was being recruited for a sport in college for football. Mm-hmm. And we were going on the tour at this college and the coach was like, curfew's midnight because nothing good ever happens after midnight. I don't know if I agree with that.
I don't know. I think
my rule's 2 a.m. When I was living in New York City, it was always 2 was the cutoff. Like I'd stay out till 4, of course, but I just knew 2 to 4.
You're not gonna like make any like logistical movements after 2.
Right.
Yeah.
You're not gonna meet someone that's like,
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in New York, everything starts later too. So like 2 a.m. is midnight in Boston. You know what I mean?
2 a.m. in New York is like 9 p.m. in Boston.
Yeah. But I don't know. I've had the most silly stories after midnight. I think the best stories happen after midnight.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I've had, I feel old saying this like back in the day, but there was like parties that you used to go to at 2 a.m. and then, see whatever happens after that. What else do we have about this episode?
Got Steve Buscemi, right? So we alluded to his role in, getting Chris to not be killed. Are you a physician when he's giving his line of questioning around the seatbelt strap?
Yeah.
No, I'm a pre-board certified massage therapist. That was
pre-board certified. Nobody says anything like that. No, I'm a pre-board certified doctor. I mean, this is probably where Tony B demonstrates the most value on the show. He not only convinces Tony Soprano to not kill Chris, but he then has this really good idea about how they can convince Chris that nothing actually happened by taking him to the parking lot of the hospital to meet with this surgeon who has no time for any of them. They basically quarantine him into the back seat and then ask him, is there going to be markings on her scapula from the seatbelt? I thought that was a genius little way of verifying that what Tony is saying is true and hopefully helping Chris see what the actual truth is.
Do you think Chris believed him at the end?
I think he says it, when he says it, it doesn't matter. He's already the laughing stock. And,
I'm already the laughing stock,
Yeah, he's already embarrassed. He understands that the damage has been done to his reputation. And, we've seen this time and again with Chris in the story is that he cares so much about how he's being perceived, right?
Mm-hmm.
There was that episode where he wants to be named as one of the mobsters, and he's upset that he hasn't been. And he finally gets his name printed in the paper when his mother calls him, and he goes out and he buys all the papers. Like, his image is everything to him, which is, I think, why the other solution to the problem was going out to Nuovo Vesuvio and having dinner with everybody so they could all see him with Adrianna and with Carmela and Tony, and that everything is well. That was an important thing for him. But I think the damage was done, and this was a moment between Tony and Chris that probably there will be no coming back from. They'll be forever changed by this. And that leads us into long-term parking.
And this episode is Adrianna's unfortunate end. The end to Adrianna's arc. This episode made me really upset. Well, it's my turn for a summary, Ross.
We all get one interjection on the summary. You know that's the rule.
Since everyone didn't like my summary before.
Your summary was fine.
Thank you.
A solid B.
What was Ross's right now?
Give you a passing grade.
Yeah. I did another cut while you're gone, just for good measure.
Wasn't any better, but he did it.
I think it was great, Ross. Okay.
You weren't even here for it.
I know.
Measure twice, cut twice.
Yeah,
right?
that's what.
That's what happens, folks, when you don't have notes. All right, just saying.
That's why you should raw dog it. Exactly.
All right.
Okay.
Kill that Jim.
So,
all right, go.
In this episode, there are a couple different storylines, but Adrianna is, the biggest storyline that happens. She meets her unfortunate end. She is working with the feds, as she was in the last couple of episodes, and they catch her throwing something out in a dumpster. We're not exactly sure what it is, but they realize she's getting rid of a body. She gets taken in for questioning, and they are like trying to force her to wear a wire. She confesses this to Chris later because she's so distraught about it. Chris obviously gets angry, as he always does, and pretty much tries to kill her. He stops himself from choking her out, and then Chris agrees to try and start this different life with her, right? She gives this picture of like, we can have something different. We can go to witness protection. We can like have a family, start this whole life together. And initially he agrees until she gets a call from Tony later. Tony tells her that Chris tried to commit suicide again. He sends Syl to pick her up. Initially, Syl is empathetic towards her. She's crying about, I don't think she's exactly crying about the thought of Chris dying as much as she's crying about the loss of the life she could have had. But we'll get into that later. But anyways, Syl initially tries to comfort her until he pulls off to the side of the road. And, she tries to get out. She gets shot dead. But it turns out Chris is the one who ratted on her. So she meets an unfortunate end. B plot is Carmela and Tony are finally back together. And Tony is in talks with the New York crew because Steve Buscemi shot someone dead in the New York crew. And they're trying to come to an understanding, which I have questions about.
Okay.
Why that is significant. But yeah, that's it. That's what happens. Was that any better?
I thought that was much better.
Thank you.
Yes. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You hit all the main points.
Yeah.
And you were succinct.
Thank you.
And you even threw in a little, personal emotion there. So look at that. This is growth. This is growth.
Wow. It took the 2 weeks off.
Had to really let it marinate.
Yeah.
At what point did you realize, I think maybe one of the most tragic moments in The Sopranos is when you see Adrianna driving down the highway and she's got the music on and
yeah.
I mean, and we talk about dream sequences and how we're not a fan, but this is a great moment of a little sleight of hand, just a subtle little thing. Because you're thinking she's going one way.
Yeah, you think she's getting away. You think she's living her dream. You think that like, oh, this person is finally getting the life that she wanted and not the life that was handed to her. And then cut to her sitting in the car with Syl.
Yeah. And the transition of the audio going from the audio track playing over the editing, so you're in the head of the character to it's on the radio.
Yeah.
Was fantastic.
Yeah,
at what point?
Shot at the suitcase. It was perfect. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When did you realize it was over for her?
Honestly, I didn't think it would be over for her this episode. I don't think I knew it was happening until Syl got out of the car or pulled the car over to, kill her. And I thought the saddest moment of this episode was her trying to get out of the car.
Yeah.
Like her scurrying around and asking him, like pleading with him not to do it. Yeah. And then he shows no remorse.
No.
He acts like he never even knew her, even though, she had a relationship with all of them.
Yeah.
She was part of that family.
Yeah. It's all business for them. That we go back to the fact that there's just, no scruples about what they do. This is just part of the JD. And it doesn't matter if they've been best friends with you and they grew up with you, or you're a complete stranger, they'll snatch a life. And her on her hands and knees crawling away and not being able to actually see the shot happen, I thought was a great piece of directing, because that's exactly how you want to see it all. The last moment is her crying, begging for her life, and then you hear the gunshot.
Mm-hmm.
There's a conspiracy theory that she never died. That's why they didn't show up.
No, of course there is. Yeah.
No, I'm joking. I have no idea. Probably not. I was thinking about how emotional it must have been for the viewers in real time watching this episode. You'll find
there's one
her death on the saddest TV deaths of all time list.
I would agree with that.
Day,
Yeah.
And just just in real time, if you've been watching it, linearly, must have been really, really tough to see her go like that.
Well, if there's one sympathetic character in the show, I think it's probably Adrianna.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
She does really love Chris, and she's one of those women who's sucked into an abusive relationship, and she doesn't know how to get out of it, and she's blinded to the idea that there. Going back to A Regular Around the Margins, there's that moment where she justifies. I mean, Chris. We kind of glossed over this because I guess there's so much domestic violence in this show, but when Chris finds out that this rumor had happened between her and Tony, he beats her up pretty bad, and she goes into the FBI. And she's got bruises all over her face. And she defends Chris in his actions by saying, if he was in the car with a woman like that, I would have killed him. Like, Chris exhibited mercy towards me. That's how much she loves him, that she's defending him to the FBI, who's trying to get her out of this whole situation. She's that in. And she's never really done anything wrong. I mean, she probably made a huge mistake when Manoush killed that guy. And she started to help them clean it up, as opposed to just going to the FBI and saying, this happened. That could have been her ticket out.
Yeah, but also, like, once you're in that family, you're in that life, your first thought is not to go to the FBI.
Yeah, that's not how you're brought up.
So she made the biggest misread of maybe the entire show, thinking that Chris would flip at the end of the day. And it's so interesting, right? It's one of those decisions that she definitely made on her own. There was no one to consult on whether Chris would go one way or the other.
Yeah.
But she read it wrong. She read it wrong. No matter how much Chris was mad at Tony, he was in it. He's in it for life. He's a made guy, and he was not going to flip. I almost want to unpack the psychology there a little bit that led into, because there was a moment, right? She didn't have to go that route.
No, she could have ratted out them all. She chose to try to bring Chris into this treachery and this betrayal. And then you see her kind of wishing that she hadn't, when she has that daydream sequence and she's driving by herself.
I think when he leaves the apartment right away, she's nervous. She thinks something's going to happen,
Yeah. And she would have been better off just taking off like she was dreaming of doing. When Tony calls her and says, Chris tried to commit suicide, I was 100% in that's what happened.
I was too.
Same.
Yeah.
Hello? Yeah, it's me. Look, everything's okay. Jesus, I don't even know how to say this. It's Christopher. He tried to commit suicide.
Oh my God, is he all right?
He's fine. He was up by Ramapo. Apparently he took some pills, and his trooper found him in the bathroom at his diner, and they brought him to the hospital. His mom's on her way up there now. Did he say anything to you? I mean, did he appear suicidal?
No.
Are you sure? Because his mom said he's very upset about something. Anyway, I'm on my way up there now, and I'm going to send Sil by to pick you up then, okay?
Jesus Christ.
He's been drinking, so he's probably fighting that heroin urge again. Anyway, Sil's on his way.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because, that's part of his character.
Yeah.
And in order to get out of it, he's had these mental health problems the entirety of the show. He probably thought that was his way out of it, He had to commit suicide, but Tony did act in a way that the way Tony delivered the news made it seem like he actually did it,
100%.
or Chris actually did it. He is very empathetic towards it. He is, you can hear kind of like the sadness in his voice too, because he also loves
definitely.
Chris.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ross, what was that?
So I was just saying, you can hear the sadness in his voice for sure when he's talking to Adrianna on the phone. He doesn't want to kill her. He has a thing for her, in that moment.
Yeah. So do you think that Chris was not Chris? Do you think that Tony was pretending to be sad on the phone because of thought of Chris killing himself? Or do you think he was genuinely sad over the phone because Adrianna was about to get whacked?
The latter for me.
I think I don't think he was sad at all. I think he was just acting, and he was faking the whole thing.
But so in the last part of this episode, we see Chris watching the TV, and Tony comes in, and Chris says he's in pain about the whole Adrianna thing. And then Tony slaps him, beats him up, and says, "You think you're alone in this?"
Yeah.
Which shows like Tony is upset about this.
Yeah.
Tony is also feeling it, and he's upset that Chris thinks that he's alone in these feelings. So if he's having those strong feelings, then do you think he's also translating those feelings to delivering the message on the phone?
I guess that's what would make good acting, is that you pull from some sort of real experience and you bring that into the performance. So yeah, I think that you're right about that.
Is Tony Soprano an actor?
Wow, what a sell job there. Nice job, Maxine.
Thanks.
Evidence, supporting
turn me
points.
around. Yeah. A lot of awards were given out for this particular episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Drea DeMayo, I mean that scene where she confesses about what's been going on, and Chris is just, what are we gonna do? I mean, the pain and the frustration in that is visceral.
Well, did that feel real from Chris? Because he said, "What are we gonna do?" Right. So very much in that moment, like he was either really acting in that moment that he was thinking about it and gonna try and protect her, or I don't know.
I think he was in. I think he was going to bolt with her. I mean, they'd been setting up this animosity and this feeling of frustration that, Chris had wanted to leave, and he was frustrated with Tony. He didn't like the life. He loved Adrianna. They talk about toxic couples of all time. They've got to be up there. And then he sees the guy with the station wagon at the gas station. And I think that's what flipped him in his mind there. And that's when he decided that he actually did like the life, and he wasn't going to leave it, and he wasn't going to betray his family.
Oh, that's
but Michael Imperioli won an Emmy for this as well, as Drea DeMayo. And it was also Tim Van Patten, who directed this, also won an Emmy. So powerful episode, one of probably the best of The Sopranos, I would say. There is also there's a couple of other important points that you mentioned. Is there anything else we want to say before we move on from this pivotal moment, this beloved character no longer being with us? Drea DeMayo did say that it was so easy for her to act that scene where she's on her hands and knees and she's screaming, "No, no, no," because she really knew it was like the end of her time on the show. And she was sad to be leaving it, and she was sad to be leaving the cast. Anything else we want to say?
Wow.
No, I think,
Well, a couple other things that happen here, as you had pointed out. We've got Carmela and Tony finally getting back together.
They're back together, baby.
Oh, yes, America's couple.
Yeah. That scene at the end where they're having dinner with AJ, and AJ was like, "This is weird.
This is weird.
This is weird." And he chugs the champagne.
Yeah.
Like every high schooler would do, right? In that situation.
Yeah.
It was kind of a cute moment when Tony laughs at him, says, "Yeah, it kind of is, huh?" And then he brings out the champagne. It was a little, it was minorly uplifting.
Would you get back together with your ex, who is just a perpetual flagrant philanderer, for $600,000 and the opportunity to build a spec home?
I say I wouldn't, but I don't know what I would do in this situation.
Feels like he's paying her off.
Yeah.
I say you just got a taste of house life in Plymouth, so
That's true.
Probably ready.
Yeah.
Yeah, you probably.
I don't know. I don't think I would. I was talking about this with someone earlier. I don't know if I ever want to own a house. The thought of having to fix everything myself, and the thought of like owning, like when something breaks, like that's my problem. But right now, since I rent, if something breaks, that's like someone else's problem.
But it kind of still is your problem, because you still need to get the landlord to come
Yeah, but
and
then
figure out how to fix it?
Then I call someone and I'm like, hey, come fix this.
Yeah, but what if it doesn't get done? See, what you'll learn is that owning a house is just removing a middleman from all of the problems that need to be solved.
It's easier.
Yeah.
To like fix something?
Yeah. Because you're in control.
There's no middleman, to Ashley's point.
Yeah. Well, I'll never be able to afford a house. So if anyone out there would love to give me $600,000 so I can stop living in my silly little Boston apartment.
You're open for it.
I'm open for it.
You'd forgive a lot of things.
You can cheat on me. You can you can join the mafia. I don't care. Give me $600,000 in a house with a pool. It's 95 degrees outside.
All right. Now you have the very clear parameters for what Maxine's looking for. A very wide spectrum of behavior that you can indulge in for a little bit over $500,000. That's kind of a steal these days.
You know what? Yeah, $600,000 for a house.
It's a lot. Yeah. Well, so Tony and Carmela are back together. Apparently, it's fairly easy to be bought. Maxine's just attested to. I also think if someone were to give me $600,000 as like startup capital, I'd probably allow for a lot too.
Yeah.
Ross?
My body's a temple.
Oh, look at him.
Ross has morals unlike us. We're tatted.
I can't be bought for anything.
We also have the change in the guard. So this is there's a lot of other kind of like important subplots that happen during this episode. There's Carmela and Tony getting back together. That kind of wraps up the drama on the personal level between Tony and Carmela during season 5. We also have the setup for what will become the main conflicts of season 6, both part 1 and part 2, which is that now Johnny Sacks is the new boss in New York. And immediately he's got a lot of Johnny Sack, a lot of Phil. So you had a question about like, why is this such a big deal?
Right. I think in the episodes in the episodes that I have been given, I think I lost a lot of the New York gang plot.
We have.
I don't know why I know why they're feuding because they're two different families. But I don't know the significance of Johnny Sacks. I don't really know who he is. I don't know why Steve Buscemi's character shot someone else in that gang.
Yeah.
So can you give me like the brief overview?
Yeah, you'll need this because, they start to set up the New York family as a big rival family, and it drives most of the conflict on the mafia level of season 6. But to me, and Ross, I'd be curious to get your take on this. You know, we said this at the beginning. The real story is not about the Soprano gang versus the other gangs. It's more about, Tony and the decisions that he makes as a person. It's about the conflicts that he has with his family, like his actual family, the choices you make, the life you could have had versus the life you couldn't have had, and the consequences of your actions. And that's one of the big reasons why when trying to whittle down 30 episodes out of 86, we do deliberately kind of ignore the New York storyline. And you do need to know parts of what's happening just to kind of understand how the plot's moving along. But it's also why we start off with the finale where you finally see Phil get popped.
Yeah.
And to some, I guess that would be like a big spoiler. Oh my God, they've been setting up this rivalry. But because of the way the show ended, it emphasizes that the rivalry between the two families was not the point of the story at the end.
Right.
It was more about the decisions that Tony makes and the consequences of those decisions, which is what we are setting up in the last 6 episodes that you're going to watch of Machete Order. But so Steve Buscemi plays Tony Blundetto, who is one of Tony Soprano's cousins. He gets released from prison at the beginning of season 5, along with Phil Leotardo and a couple of other longtime mobsters. This is kind of like a big release of all these guys who have served their time for some stuff they did back in the 80s. And it does change the dynamics of the mafia families in New York and New Jersey. There is a character, Ross, help me out here with the names of this, but one of Carmine's former consiglieres gets released along with Phil Leotardo. And Phil kills him. There's this big kind of power struggle between once Carmine Sr. dies, you've got Johnny Sacks vying for power. You've got Lorraine, who's one of the female mobsters, actually the only female mobster that you see. And then you've got Carmine Jr., who's Carmine Sr.'s son, who lives in Florida, is kind of an idiot, always uses his words incorrectly. And they are all struggling for power. And it's really Carmine versus Johnny Sacks. And in all of that struggle, one of Carmine's former consiglieres gets killed. And that is somebody who is very close to Tony B, Steve Buscemi's character. And when he gets killed, Steve Buscemi Tony B has been trying to become a massage therapist. He moves away from that, gets back into the life of crime. And when his friend from prison is killed, he exacts his revenge by killing Phil's brother. And that's why Phil is upset. And so this whole conflict is being driven by Johnny Sacks wanting to seek revenge and justice for his family. And Phil's the one who's really pissed. And Phil's basically Johnny Sacks' number 2. And he's the one who's wanting this justice to be done. And this is why there's now conflict in the family, because immediately Tony B goes on the lam, and Tony Soprano legitimately doesn't know where he is, but isn't also like really trying to find him. And then he has a couple of ideas of where he thinks he could be. And you have this confrontation once Carmine becomes the de facto boss, and they squash this rivalry with little Carmine. And Tony's willing to give him up as long as Johnny Sacks will kill him quickly and doesn't torture him. And Johnny Sacks says no. And so that changes Tony's mind.
Good summary. Yeah, I think the New York family obviously contributes to the story a lot in the ways as you just described. But I think from a more meta level, it puts a chip on Tony's shoulder constantly, because New York looks down on Jersey, especially Phil Leotardo, who becomes a bigger character. And I think it drives and motivates Tony in a lot of ways.
Yeah, there's a disrespect.
So I think that's if there's maybe one takeaway about the New York family, it's that it's just a consistent thorn in Tony's side and making him feel small, and like his crew's under it. What do they call him at one point? Like, it's not even a crew. It's what's the sub term for a crew? Something like, I don't know if you remember that line.
Yeah. They said that they're not even really a crew. They're just like a gang.
Like a gang or something like that. Yeah. So
yeah, they have very little respect for the New Jersey crew, and that insults Tony. Tony thinks of himself as the boss of the boss.
Okay. Is there anything else we should say about this episode? No?
Farewell, Adrianna.
R.I.P. Adrianna.
Yeah.
You were my
Sopranos
favorite character.
home movies. There we come.
Wait, also, we have to get back to Chris sucks. Chris sucks so much. You said at the beginning of this, Chris is a beloved character. Why? He sucks. He beats up Adrianna. He's the reason why Adrianna is dead. She didn't deserve that. She was getting beat up every single episode. And for what reason?
I think, first of all, let me just correct the record slightly here.
Okay.
I think that people found Chris's character to be the most interesting and engaging, and that's why he was a popular character.
Okay.
I don't think when I said that he was people's favorite characters, I meant that he's the most redeemable, he's the one that you can relate to, and he's the most upstanding or anything like that. He's clearly not, but I think that he's got a lot of interesting plot points around him. He's a deep character. He's young, and I think that made him more relatable.
Yeah.
The up-and-coming guy, the ambitious guy.
How old is he supposed to be in this?
I think he's supposed to be in his late 20s, because, he's significantly older, or Tony's significantly older than him.
Right.
And Tony in the beginning of this is hard to believe, but he's 39 when the show starts.
Well, in season 6, episode 13, Sopranos Home Movies, he has his birthday.
Yeah, his 47th birthday.
47th birthday.
Yeah.
Is there a time jump?
No, this is not a time. Well, getting into long-term, we can get into Sopranos Home Movies if you want.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're done with it?
Yeah,
Chris?
we're done with Chris.
You don't understand why Chris sucks as a character. I mean, he's just like the rest of them, right? He's not a good human. He's done a lot of shitty things. You could make the argument that the most redeemable of the mobsters is Bobby Bacala, because we learn in Sopranos Home Movies that he's never actually killed anybody before, and he seems to be a very gentle soul. Hasn't popped his cherry yet, right?
Yeah, he's probably the nicest of all.
Probably is. Sopranos Home Movies. So we jump ahead. We are in episode 13 of season 6. This was the second part of season 6. So there had been a year hiatus between episode 12 and episode 13.
So do we know why they didn't just make it a 7th season?
You could make a couple of different theories about why they didn't do it this way. I think in a thematic sense, there's not a huge break between what's going on at the first part of season 6 and the second part of season 6. There's also rules around actors and compensations based on how many seasons things go on for. And so I think that there's more of it's semantics more than anything else. I mean, it essentially is season 7, but they they extended it into season 6. I don't know. Other podcasts might have deeper insights than that. But either way, have you ever played a game of Monopoly that does not end in a fight? Sopranos Mooney, no exception.
I'm not a big Monopoly fan. I'm a life guy. Life.
We had a we had a rule in my house, and my little sister was not allowed to play Monopoly because
Not allowed.
She was not allowed. My brother, growing up, his favorite game is Monopoly, so we played it all the time. But my little sister, she's like 3 years younger than me.
And what's the age gap between your sister and your brother?
My brother's a year older than me.
Okay.
So there's a 4-year age gap between my sister and my brother. And my sister, would never finish the game. It was way too long for her.
Yeah.
But to finish her run in the game, she would just throw a tantrum. Like, she was so by the time it ended, she was annoyed to be there, was losing all of her money. She was not a very good Monopoly player because she was 4 years younger than my brother. But yeah, eventually mom was like, you're done. You're not allowed to anymore because there's too many siblings fights happened.
Yeah.
During the game of Monopoly.
That's how it goes. The next game of Monopoly that doesn't end in a fight will be the first. And, this particular episode, we see an ending not unlike your own family Monopoly game.
The last episode of Machete Order for this season, should we play a game of Monopoly?
No, I like you guys too much. I don't need to have a feud over a fake Monopoly that I've developed over on Boardwalk in Park Place. This is... I think Monopoly could be a good microcosm for the conflicts that arise, not just in Sopranos, but apparently in everybody's lives, and everybody's families. But this game takes place at a weekend retreat up at Bobby Bacala's cabin in upstate New York. I think it is Lake George. Yeah.
George. Okay.
They don't mention it by name, but Tony, after a brief stint in jail for a gun possession, which we do not see the context of because of the way that we're watching this in Machete Order. We'll get to that.
Okay.
He agrees kind of reluctantly to go up to the cabin, right? Janice wants him up there. It's his birthday. Carmela kind of convinces him. So I will say I think this is one of the most scenic episodes of the entire series. I mean, there's just some beautiful shots. It's summer now. We've all been on vacations and we're all out there in nature enjoying it. And there's a beautiful scene of Tony and Bobby fishing. And they contemplate and talk about death. One of the more important conversations, I think, happens in The Sopranos. That's when we realize that Bobby's never actually killed anybody. But that is going to be short-lived because after what starts out as a friendly game of Monopoly ends like every family's Monopoly game, Bobby beats the shit out of Tony. I mean, it's a throwdown. And even though it feels like they buried the hatchet and Tony forgives him and says he won fair and square, we quickly realize that is not the case when Tony and Bobby have a little business to attend to up by the border with a couple of Canadian mobsters that are going to sell them some expired pharmaceuticals at a discount if they'll take care of a little problem involving one of these Canadian mobsters' sister-in-law or brother-in-laws. Tony puts it on Bobby to deal with it and asks Bobby to commit his first murder, which Bobby reluctantly carries out. The B plot of this, it's a pretty consistent episode. There's not a lot of other side plots, but there are some side conversations. One between Carmela and Janice, where they talk about the nature of Tony. And Carmela says he's not a vindictive person, which we saw a couple of evidences to the contrary. And the episode ends with Bobby returning home while they're playing This Magic Moment. And it is just a picturesque family reunion. His daughter runs to greet him in his arms, but Bobby is forever changed because he's now killed somebody.
I kind of feel bad for Bobby in this moment.
I feel very bad for Bobby.
Yeah. He's the
I
softest one.
I forgot that was your summary for a moment. I was like, man, he's just really hyped.
That's how good the summary it is. Yeah.
We've all gotten better at our summaries for this episode. I think last episode.
Oh, that wasn't a compliment for SJ.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, actually, Ross, you're right.
You guys, you guys are ganging up on me. All right.
Whew, I gotta wake up here. Sorry.
I just flowed right into it. I didn't even need to. Yeah.
Just kidding. No, that was great.
I mean, Bobby, yeah, right. Like, he pretty much does everything in this episode that I think you would do to defend honor, to do the right thing. You know, I mean, he hits Tony, but Tony deserves it.
Yep.
Yeah.
He still initiated though, which,
Carmela got caught in the crossfire.
Yeah.
Her shoulder.
Yeah. Oh, that was, I hate seeing. Don't you just hate seeing that when we get thrown like that?
James Gandolfini actually got hurt while they were filming this scene.
Yeah?
Yeah. I mean, they're going at it.
They definitely foreshadowed it with all the alcohol they were drinking. They kept showing the bottles getting thrown into the trash.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. They've been boozing hard.
Yeah.
And, but I mean, and they bring up a very famous scene about Tony's father shooting his mother through the beehive hairdo.
He did not like that.
No, he's, Tony is very protective about his father's reputation and again, this goes back to his just how high he values family. He does not like it when, even if it's among family, the reputations are besmirched. And that kind of is what sets him off to then start talking about Janice, which is the contradiction of he's defending the honor of his parents, but then making fun of his sister and calling her a whore, basically.
Yeah.
Right.
But do you think that's just like a sibling thing?
No, I don't make fun of my sister like that.
Well, I don't make fun of my sister like that, but I do. We have all gone a little too hard making fun of siblings.
Well, I think that's what makes it for a good story is just the
banter that goes a little too far. When Bobby was even like, "You Sopranos, you go too far." Yeah,
I love Bobby. He just says the obvious, straightforward stuff like that. I love it. You're like, yes, I'm glad someone finally said that. It's simple and it's right. You just go too far, both of you. Sounds like Janice did some really fucked up shit to Tony though when he was younger.
Well, she is the older sister.
Yeah,
and you could see. I mean, you do see Janice just displaying evidence that she's not a good mother. She probably wasn't a good older sister. The way that she treats her daughter and like the impatience that she has when she's overtired and she blames the caretaker for why she's
the worst mother. Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah. And you're not supposed to go in the water without her.
She gives her daughter candy while she's trying to go to sleep.
Yeah. It just seems like 101 things to do.
That was a fun party when Tony's giving her a hard time about bribing the kid. Yeah.
Yeah. And Carmela sees this, and that sets up. This is a very good episode of setting up why a character behaves the way that they do, right? Tony is upset that Janice made fun of or was talking about their parents in a bad light, and that's what makes him kind of go after his sister, which I think we can all relate to. Our siblings push us, so we push back, maybe a little harder than we intend to. You see it again when Carmela goes after Janice because she sees Janice being a bad mother, right? Like blame and being too territorial about her and having this very, possessive way of saying, "Oh, my daughter can't go in the water unless I know about it." Yeah. Kind of sets Carmela off a little bit. It's like almost like Janice doesn't trust Carmela to look after her niece.
But do you think Janice is just trying to take her power back because no one respects her? So this is the one thing that she can be in charge of.
I think you are making some very astute observations. Yeah, I think that's probably it. Doesn't make it right, though.
No, it doesn't make it right at all. But I think that this is the only thing that Janice has power over.
Yeah.
Even she has this line when she's talking to Bobby after Bobby has, beat Tony up. And she's like, "Why would you do that? He's the head of the family.
Yeah.
That is a bad idea. You shouldn't do that to my brother." She knows that she's powerless against her brother.
She's not equipped for that.
She's not equipped.
No.
No.
I think you're right, though. I think that is why she exudes that kind of control over her daughter.
But she's still not a good mother.
She's so annoying, Janice. I can't stand her. End of the day.
Yeah. How did her and Bobby get together?
So Bobby's wife dies during one episode.
Okay.
And then Bobby's in grieving. And there's a lot of women who come around trying to kind of console him and be the next woman.
Is it because
for
Bobby's like the one good guy?
Yeah. That's basically it. And Janice sees this as like her opportunity to find like a stable, loyal, true man. And really, I mean, we skipped all of this, but there's a couple of episodes of her weaseling her way into their family and eventually is successful. Unfortunately for Bobby, I think.
Yeah.
Poor Bobby.
He couldn't resist that big red boob tat. It's just too much.
That Rolling Stones lip, right? He just loved it. I mean, there was, so I don't know if you remember when Mikey from season 1 gets killed, who's Junior's like trigger man.
Yes.
Right? His wife, the one who was like, they were swearing at each other as he was going out for his run at the end of right before he gets whacked.
Yes.
And then she's crying about how he's like, he said he'd be right back and that he loved me.
Yeah.
She comes over and tries to console Bobby and make her way in there.
Everyone's consoling Bobby.
Yeah. No, I mean, he's a good guy. Everybody can see that, But way better looking than Janice. A lot less baggage, it seems like, too. But it doesn't matter, Janice won. She's very determined.
Yeah. I mean, if there's one way to move up, like, do you think Bobby's ever going to get... Well, Tony could have easily gotten Bobby killed, right? For beating him up.
Well, many times, yeah.
Many times.
Also, Bobby started out in Junior's crew. So, he makes the transition over. That's kind of one of the important moments about that scene when they're fishing on the lake. I think that's one of... it's a great philosophical scene. They talk a lot about death. And Bobby has that line, I don't even think you hear it when it happens.
Yeah, you probably can't hear it when it happens. Yeah.
Which, if you think about how the whole show ended, it's kind of a good moment of foreshadowing there. And Tony acknowledging, this life that we do, it ends really in one of two ways.
Yeah.
He mentions that several times. But this is also a scene where, we learn that Bobby has never killed anybody before. Tony also mentions, he's looking for a new protege, that he had somebody in mind, which obviously is Christopher. Who's not working out for him. We've seen that relationship unravel a lot, and now here's Bobby being considered for that.
Okay. I have one question. I've seen the last episode. I know what happens to Chris. Is Chris dead yet?
No.
Okay.
No, he has not died yet.
Okay.
In fact, you see him briefly just saying, hey,
oh, yeah, saying happy birthday.
Belated birthday.
Yes.
Tony hangs up on him. Their relationship is strained at this point. Adriana's dead, but yeah, Chris and Tony are not doing great.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there's the brawl, and Bobby tries to flee the scene. And another great moment of comedy.
Yeah.
He smashes his car right into the tree.
I said in an earlier episode that every mob guy fight ends with one of them dying. So this is an exception, I have to say. Take that. Helps to be married to the guy's sister, I guess.
Yeah.
He's family.
Do you think it helped him?
Yeah.
Yeah. One way to not get whacked is to become family.
He's family.
Yeah.
Tony holds true to
not that he's married to his sister, but he's the father of his niece. Maybe that's the way I think about it.
There's that, yeah. I mean, we've seen Tony time and again make exceptions for family, right?
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't kill Junior.
Yep.
He kind of tries to kill his mom, but he's forgiving with his family.
Right.
And he really does have a lot of loyalty.
Yeah.
He's done it with Chris many, many times too. We also see, Tony holding the grudge. Carmela's talking to him about Meadows' career, and he's like, if that throw rug hadn't been there, that would have been him on the ground, not me.
Yeah. But do you think that shows how much Tony is aging by the end of the show, right?
Yeah.
He can't throw down like he used to throw down. He just had his birthday. He's feeling a little, I know he feels defeated, but maybe, on his birthday after getting beat up, he's feeling a little existential.
Yeah.
He's getting older. Can't do what he used to do.
He's been shot.
He's been shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good shot. Yep. Good point.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard getting older. You don't think it's going to happen to you.
Yeah.
And then these are the things.
Feeling
Ross looking better than ever.
Fresh as Daisy.
Ross, the hottest one in this podcast. Yeah, we know.
Go ahead, Ross. Keep rubbing it in.
No, I just, I just feel nimble. That's all. That's all I mean.
Do you moisturize?
You feel nimble.
What's that?
Do you moisturize? Do you have a skin routine?
Oh, yeah.
Skin's perfect.
Yeah, we've talked about this, right?
Yeah,
SJ texted me on the side asking for my creams.
Yeah, I was asking. Well, Ross is the only man that I've ever enjoyed a face mask with. So,
Yes, there's a great face mask picture of us.
Yeah.
Yes. New Year's Eve 2016.
Nicole, put the face mask photo up. All right. Well, anything else we want to say before we sign off on this one? I got a question for you. Why do you think that I added this one to the end? Because we jump ahead. It's a bit of a non sequitur. It doesn't really connect to the Adrianna plotline at all.
Right. I don't really know. I think. Let me think about this.
Ross, this is for you too.
I'm sure this is going to come in the next few episodes that we watch. But I don't know. Maybe this is, Tony aging a little bit, him getting a little existential. I think what ties in mostly with, the Adrianna storyline about her wanting to have this different life and almost getting this different life. At Bobby, at the end, when he's looking out, holding his daughter, that could have just been his life, you know? And kind of the juxtaposition between him like just killing someone for the first time and then holding his daughter at the end. It's like in a different life, he is just there with his family and he's loving and he's this person that his family can look up to, but he doesn't have that because he chose this life and he had to go do this thing that he really didn't want to do. So kind of the same with Adrianna, where she didn't want to rat at someone she loved so much. Everyone involved in the mafia seems to have, like you said before, two different endings. You either die or you stay in it forever. You can't get rid of it.
I think you picked it for the connection between him giving a pass to both Chris and Bobby. That's my take.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of these are good interpretations of it.
Yeah.
It's a lot
What's
about,
the real answer?
I mean, it felt like it was an important commentary about the life you could have had.
Yeah.
And the idea that you make these choices that you know are wrong so that you can have something that you think you want, only to later find that it's not what you wanted.
Yeah.
And that had you just stayed on the path, you probably would have ended up where you really actually wanted to be. And then you see that on the other side, almost like going through the looking glass. And yes, you know, Tony's value system and the important emphasis that he puts on family is an important part of where we're going and where this show is going. And that is going to be something that we're going to see more of as we get into we're down to the last 6, folks. We only have 6 more Sopranos episodes. And it's making me sad because I've really enjoyed this ride. And there's so many other episodes that I've wanted to include that we just don't have time for. And this session is going to be no different. So with that, session 9 of the Sopranos Machete Order, we're going to go back and we're going to watch season 5, episode 13, All Due Respect.
Okay.
We're going to then jump into season 6, episode 6.
Writing these down this time. Sorry.
Good. Season 6, episode 6, Live Free or Die. And then season 6, episode 11, Cold Stones.
All right.
All right.
So
I'll still text you to ask there.
Yeah, probably. So we got season 5, episode 13, season
All Due
6,
Respect.
Episode 6,
Live Free or Die.
season 6, episode 11.
Cold Stones.
All right. I'll watch them. I'll report back for our second to last episode of this season.
The penultimate.
Yeah.
Usually the big one.
Wait, okay. I have a question. So next episode, you're assigning me the last 3. They're going to talk about the last 3 in the episode after that. Should we have an episode where that's the one where we bring in all the guests for their commentary?
That's going to be our
Like
finale. We are actually, we said originally that we were going to have 10 sessions in this podcast. We actually have to have 11.
Yes.
Because we have to have a big old recap. We have to finish it off. There will be no more episodes to give, but there will be plenty to talk about. And we will have a few special guests.
Call in.
Yeah. If you want to be on, if you want to have a little segment, let us know. You can find us. We're on Instagram. We're on X. We're on TikTok.
Most of you have our numbers.
And you pretty much can just text us.
Know where we live.
Send us a letter. You can come on.
All right, guys.
Bell. All right.
This was good stuff.
All right.
Good times.
Bye. See ya.
Bye. Thanks for listening to another episode of Machete Order. If you like what we're doing, give us a rating and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening. Be sure to subscribe.
If people don't support this thing, it might not make it.
Special thanks to Brother Sal for providing us with our theme song, I Will Tell. And thank you to producer Nicole Kemet and our guest host, Ross. Do you agree with SJ and Ross's episode picks? Am I not appreciating the story the way I should? Let us know on our Instagram, TikTok, or Twitter. We will not call it X, at Machete Order. We'll talk about it, or because this is a show about Italians, or argue about it.
Affangu!
Be sure to tell your friends.
Until next time, I'm SJ Petaruti.
I'm Maxine Filivong, and this has been a Rotary Studios experience.